Hello, welcome to another edition of the ICSAN Rivers Chapter Career Navigation Series. My name is Celine Okoroma Vincent. I currently serve as a chapter chairman. Today's edition of the Career Navigation Series will be featuring a very distinguished guest. In fact, she's a world-class scholar, having attended two of the very top 5 schools in the world. So we're getting world-class insights, motivation, and mentorship for our career journeys as company secretaries. So I'll urge you to get your pen, get your paper, get a bottle of water, sit tight, relax, enjoy. If you blink, you miss. Happy viewing. Your academic background, where you work currently, and how long you've held the role.
Okay. My name is Wola Joseph. I'm the Chief Legal and Company Secretariat Department, Eko Disco. I've been in this company almost 10 years, 9 years plus. My academic background, of course, starts with UI. I studied law at the premier university, #1 university in Nigeria, University of Ibadan. I finished there and then went on to the Abuja chapter of the Nigerian Law School, Buhari, where I studied, where I had my BL, of course. And then I finished there. I did a master's in international finance from the Harvard Law School in Cambridge, Massachusetts, United States of America. And then recently I added an MBA from the INSEAD Business School. So that's my core academic, my academic background in summary, the core ones. I have quite a few other certifications and fellowships. I'm a member of this very able institute, the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. I am a very proud member of that. Yes, I am a member.
Thank you so much for that weighty introduction. Okay, so we'll move on to sort of understanding why you chose a career path as a company secretary. Is this something you've always had interest in, or it's happened by chance?
No, it's something I have always had interest in. I mean, amongst my friends, I recall that I'll be the one to want to take notes. I'll be the one to want to record things. I'll be the one to want to ensure compliance to a certain extent. So I always had it in me that I would definitely be a chartered secretary, a company secretary, and a chartered company secretary at that. I had shown interest in writing the exams from way back when I was in university, because I knew that it was something that would help me improve my skills in being an effective company secretary in Nigeria and even abroad. And that was the reason why I knew that I had to do it. So yes, I always knew that being a company secretary would be a tag I would have to my person and to my name from day one.
Okay, so from experience, based on your function so far, what would you say the role of a company secretary entails? On a day-to-day basis, what do you have to deal with? Talk to us about your role as a company secretary.
You see, honestly, when people ask this question, there are a lot of things you can mention. People will tell you, pay attention to details, being able to be meticulous. Those are the general things that you must have. But there are a few things that I think are very key that are not talked about enough. And I think one of them, for instance, is diplomacy.
Yeah.
Know how to be extremely, extremely diplomatic. I mean, you're sitting at a board, and I've sat at boards, and I must be honest with you, I've sat at boards for about 10 to 12 years of my career, because I've been a company secretary for that long. And I've sat with governors who sit on the board, I've sat with ministers who have sat on boards, government boards, that at government boards, and I've also sat with regulars, individuals on board. You need to learn to manage the personalities. You need to understand the power play. So that is extremely, extremely important in being a company secretary. And I have to deal with that on a regular basis. I have to deal with confidentiality. You need to understand. And I'm not just talking about regular day-to-day confidentiality. I'm talking about the highest level of confidentiality. You need to understand discretion. You have to be very discreet. You have to know the things to say. I mean, your directors will call you. I've sat at boards where one director will call me and say things about one other director, and I always know how to manage those personalities. You need to know how to manage them. You need to know who is close to this person, who is not close to this person, and how to balance out the interests. Because it's very important at that level, you remain relevant, you remain recognized, and that people can trust you with the information. Those are things that I don't think they are talked about enough at the tree level. Nobody today can call me outside my directors to know what is going on at any board meeting. I've sat at board meetings where CEOs are fired. I've sat at board meetings where colleagues are fired at board meetings, and I have a responsibility, you know, to ensure that that is not disclosed. So confidentiality is so key, even as a lawyer is key, not talk about the company secretary. And then discretion and diplomacy, you cannot talk too much about. You can't overemphasize that. You have to. Those are things that you must have. You must have tact, diplomacy. They are similar. You know, you must have emotional intelligence. So some things you said at board meetings, you must control your reaction to such things. You will hear certain things that they don't even need to talk about. Some directors will abuse each other at board meetings. It's interesting what happens. But you are there and you need to ensure you maintain a stoic, you know, perception. You must have the emotional intelligence not to have a reaction. You know how you say, yeah, you mustn't be caught dead in such a situation. So emotional intelligence also extremely key as a company secretary. So those are the things that I would touch on as being extremely key that I think are not talked about enough.
Thank you so much for this insights, because I totally agree with you. We actually usually don't hear this. We usually hear the core roles of a company secretary, but this aspect is so important because that is what actually sustains your relevance as a company secretary.
Correct.
Okay, so I wanted to know further, like, talk to us about your early career days. Like, you're talking to us about boards, sitting on government boards. I mean, you started from somewhere, right? How did you start off as a company secretary? Those early teaching stages of your career, talk to us how you're able to navigate it to the point where you are now as an accomplished company secretary.
You know, I can't talk about my early days as a company secretary without talking about Banwa Ighodalo. That is where my career started. And honestly speaking, who I am today, I owe it to that law firm. You know, people could go out and talk about places they worked with, and BNI was where I started my career, and I was trained by the very best of people. It wasn't obviously a train of come to class and train. No, it was from just being exposed rightly. I mean, when I say I sat at board at BNI, I worked with the Company Secretariat unit. Banwa Ighodalo A1 has been holds company secretary positions for very, very big and critical, you know, organizations. We've had TINAPA. TINAPA had major banks, you know, on the board, and we sat with them. The governor was also on the board. So the bank and the board meetings, the governor will not hold board meetings if he did not have the bank MDs present. Not their staff, not their secondary staff. The MD had to be present because the meeting was chaired by the governor of the state. So we've had such clientele and so many other big clienteles where you have, you know, representing government, where you have a minister or two ministers, Minister of Finance, Minister of Power present at those, you know, at those meetings. And, you know, you have to carry yourself in a respectable manner. So that exposure built my confidence. The exposure I got at Banwa Ighodalo built my confidence. I was trained on being meticulous. I was trained on paying attention to detail. I remember in Banwa Ighodalo, if you don't write well, they will tell you to take it back until you get that. They won't point out what the problem is. You take back that work and they'll tell you there's a problem. Go and find out the problem. Because of the time you spend trying to find out what that problem is, you'll be more meticulous next time. So that built me in making me much more meticulous and helping me manage my time. So Banwa Ighodalo, definitely, I must say that place, and I think I always tell company secretaries or that I speak to, you know, budding company secretaries that go and train at a good law firm. That's how you start your career. Go and train at a solid law firm, at least spend 3 to 5 years there. You'll be grateful for it. Then you can go in-house. So subsequently, I got a huge opportunity when I was barely 3.5 years at the bar to head the legal department of Lagoon Home Safe Loans Limited. And that Lagoon Home was the #1 mortgage bank in Nigeria. You know, so I was the head of legal at that point in time, and I was also the company secretary. So that also further exposed me. So I think it was pretty easy for me coming from a law firm of IBI, where you had to learn so much, you had to do so much, and I had so much exposure to going in-house. It was literally a walk in the park for me. And then of course coming to Eko Disco where I am now, Eko Electricity where I am now, and I even have further exposure, and I'm able to attend meetings that involve, again, we have the government on the board, so we have the VP, attending such meetings. We also have many meetings with ministers. We have meetings with Minister of Finance, with the Senate chairman. We've had so many. I attend such meetings, so that helped in building my confidence. And at such meetings, you have to go back and give reports. So honestly, I've had the best of exposures, if you ask me.
Okay, thank you so much. Would I call it free publicity for BNI?
That's not the intention. I have no shares in BNI. That's not the intention, but it's difficult to talk about me without talking about BNI.
I understand. Okay, let's move on to really understanding. I believe you've spoken so much, so well, really, about the experience you had. I believe there are challenges, right? There are challenges about the role of a company secretary, especially for the organization that you work for that is quite exposed. What are those challenges that you face on a daily basis? Like, talk to us about them.
I think one of the major challenges I face is balancing interests. Okay. You have investors, currently we have a government shareholder, and we have private people who have invested in that company. You have to balance their interests. It's extremely important that you are able to strike that balance. And sometimes you won't get it right. That's the truth. You won't always get it right. So that generally poses a challenge for me continuously. And I think that in every organization where you have multiple interests, and I don't think there's any organization that has just one interest, unless it's a small private company, you would have such challenges that you have to deal with. So I find myself, having to deal with and balancing the personalities, balancing the interests. That is one of the major challenges that I see I'm having. Of course, in my career growing, I've had several other challenges that with time I've been able to surmount. I've been able to build capacity in those areas, and things will currently, if I speak today, I think balancing interest is one of the challenges I see that I still am working on today.
Okay, so if you talk about hints, how do you navigate balancing interests? Let's give us a clue on how you're managing that challenge.
It goes back to some of the things I mentioned earlier. First of all is tact and diplomacy. So if somebody, for instance, has this particular interest and this person has a different interest, it's a competing interest. Now, because I also have the legal role, my legal role comes to play in helping me know, for instance, drafting a contract, how to balance those interests in the contract drafting. So it's developing skills in tact, developing skills in diplomacy, and just learning how to manage people. I think without trying to sound a bit, feminist, and I'm not a feminist, I don't think I'm a feminist in that regard, but I think women generally are able to apply much more diplomacy because of the balancing the homes, balancing the in-laws, balancing your children, So if you've gotten to that stage where you have children, you generally just know how to have more tact and how to have more diplomacy in dealing with issues and how to balance conflicting interests that are put before you at the point in time. They say when two elephants are fighting, for instance, the grass suffers, you're always the grass. You understand what I mean? So you just need to know how to manage that suffering that you are suffering, such that, first of all, both people don't know that you are suffering. Again, you don't put both heads together, because having a harmonized board pays you. It pays you better having your board harmonized. So working to ensure that your board is harmonized at all times and that their visions and their goals are aligned is extremely important. Extremely important.
Thank you so much for that insight. I just wanted to find out, do you have career highlights? Like, there must have been things you have achieved or awards you've gained over the course of your career that have given you those proud moments. Talk to us about them and how you felt when you experienced those kicks.
I think one of the ones that really, really, surprised me or excited me, if I may put it that way, is when I was recognized as the 11th out of all the GCs in Nigeria.
Wow.
So I was recognized, and you want to be first, you want to be second, but when they recognize you as 11 out of over millions of general counsels we have in Nigeria, then you're doing something right. Also, several times my team has been nominated for awards. I have been nominated for awards in my personal capacity. I like that. I appreciate that. I have universities recognize me. They want to do things in honor of me. Universities I did not go to. For instance, yes, LASU, as they want to recognize me in so many things. I didn't attend LASU. I've never done anything with LASU. But early this year, they had an essay competition in my honor. So things like that honestly make me feel extremely, extremely honored, humbled is the best way to put it. I must be doing something right. And I like that I'm being recognized for doing the right thing. If you're working so hard, at some stage in your career, you want to make sure you want to look back and check if you're having any impact on people's lives. And having that impact on people's lives, those kind of things make me feel honored. The kind of things that really, really give me excitement also. So recently in my career, I've always, since I finished from law school, I've always sponsored a few people to law school. And when they finish and they invite me to their weddings, for instance, they start working, I'm honored. Those are the kind of things that I consider highlights of my career. Recently, I partnered with Regina Aziza, and he had, I don't know if you know him, he had a scholarship for law students, and I was actively involved in that. And they graduated. The day they graduated, I got calls from not all of them, but almost all of them, that they're done with law school exams. Of course, they're waiting for their results. Well, that made me so happy because people find it hard. So some of my highlights are things like that, combined with being recognized for hard work. Nobody wants to work so hard and not get some form of recognition. So I get commendations from my MD, I get commendations from my board, and that excites me. That keeps me going. Honestly, keeps me going. That encourages me. Outside your people that we work with closely, you also want to be able to have an impact in this life, in the profession. And those are the kind of things. So that's where the scholarships for people can afford to go to school, come. And I always enjoy. I absolutely love participating in such things. I drive a few myself, and also I partner with people to do that. So that, for instance, I enjoy doing.
Wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate this feedback, because you see, most times we feel like we have to wait till we are 60, 70 before we start thinking about legacy and impact. But the fact that you are thriving in your career and you've already started implementing things that puts your name in gold, that's impressive. Thank you so much for all you are doing so far.
Thank you.
I want to ask, I believe even from your boarding career years, you mentioned Bawo and Nigodalo, I feel like there's a role mentors have played in your career acceleration. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about, one, if you have a mentor, and secondly, what's the importance of mentorship in career acceleration?
I have mentors.
I was hoping to get that response.
I have mentors. I would not be where I am today without a few people I must talk about.
Okay.
The first person is my older brother, Eko Joseph. He's not a lawyer. He's not a lawyer, but he, at every stage in my life, has always taken an interest in what I do. It's not just me, all of us, all his younger ones. He will ask, what are you doing? He'll push your CV out there. He'll read up about things, explain it to you. So he's my life mentor, right? And I thank God that not a lot of people have that opportunity. I remember I was talking to one of my mentees and I told her, my brother was my mentor. She was like, she doesn't have any family member that is that supportive. So not a lot of people have that luxury. It's a major luxury. I don't take it for granted. I'm blessed to have a life, because he's not going anywhere. He's there forever. He's your brother. Same mother, same father. There's nowhere he's going, and he has my interest. He doesn't have a choice, but blood. He's a real definition of papa. You know what I mean? Some say blood is not by family, brother is not by blood. This one is my blood and is my brother by every standard. I also have a cousin, an older cousin. He's a lawyer. He was Commissioner of Justice at Cross River at some point in time. So he also, Eko, he also is plays a significant role in my career because he's a lawyer. He brings a spin to it that my brother does not bring to it. So if I call him and say, we call him Asuko, people know him as Eyo, we call him Asuko, blah, blah, blah. And he'll tell me, well, this is the way. He's a very blunt person. He'll tell you as it is, but I appreciate bluntness in people. I also have Georgie Tomi. I'm blessed, absolutely blessed to have Georgie Tomi. So I have one or two mentors I don't want to mention because they're high flyers and I'm not sure they would want me to mention. But the key thing is you need to have a mentor. You need to have a mentor. You need to have sponsors. You need to have mentors. Start with one and then build. My brother has always been my mentor from when I was young. I gradually added my cousin and I've again added Georgie Tomi and I've added a few other people along the line. You pick people that care about you genuinely, will tell you the truth. I'm not keen on people that will tell me nice things. I want people that will tell me the truth about what I'm doing wrong and what I need to do right. And I want people that have time for me. Mentoring, you cannot overemphasize mentoring. And mentoring has played a key role in getting me to where I am today. I will tell you, every job I've applied for was through one of these mentors. Every job I've gotten, my job in Eko School was through one of these mentors. My previous job was through one of these mentors. My job at Bawani Gudalo was through one of these mentors. So my life is mentors. So I can't, look, mentors play a key role. The reason I did an MBA was through a mentor. He spoke to me about it, looked at my CV and he said, well, you need to add something different to it to show, I see you in a bigger role. I see you doing bigger things. You need to do an MBA. And I took it up. I went, the kind of person I am when I want to do something, especially academics, I like going for the best. I Google top 5 MBA schools in the world. INSEAD was number 2. Harvard was number 1. I've been to Harvard already. I didn't want to go back there. Plus, I have children now. I didn't want to be flying 12, 13, 14 hours to the US. INSEAD, it's Abu Dhabi campus. It's just 7 hours from us here. And that's where I did it. So, or France, if you pick France is 7 hours as well. You're there. So it worked for me. Number 2, university school for MBA. And it's just nearby. Why not? And so I picked INSEAD. So that's how I did it. And my in fact, almost all my mentees were my references, wrote references for me. So they're key. That's the point I'm trying to, they're key. You cannot, and some of them are not, I didn't necessarily pick them. Okay. Just, you have an interest and when I call you, you pick the call and you have time for me. Even if you don't have time, if I chase you, I'll get you at some point. My cousin was commissioner for justice. He was a busy man. I moved to Cross River to sit down in his house and get him to answer questions on my career, and he would stare me aside. So it doesn't always have to be convenient, but I knew that this is someone that loved me genuinely and would genuinely look out, tell me, so that was important to me. So you need mentors, please. Everybody needs mentors. Everybody needs mentors. I can go on and on about mentors.
To piggyback on your response. Now the question is, what kind of person should a budding chartered secretary be in order to position themselves to have access to mentors?
You have to be self-driven. If mentors, you make your mentors work easy. If you are on your own, self-driven, so you want to be successful, and you want to, all you need is someone to steer you in being that success that you want to be. So I knew from day one that I wanted to be the head of any organization I work with in terms of the department and probably, by God's grace, bigger things, I knew that. And I knew that I needed to position myself to do that. And I knew that, what did I need to do that? I started working on it. And I got it. So if you don't necessarily need to know you want to read law, because that's why you need a mentor sometimes to guide you, right? But you need to know that you want to do well. You want to be great. Then that is the first thing. It makes the mentors work a lot easier. A few people make mistakes when picking mentors. Mentors are there to support you. But some people think that when you have a mentor, you should ask them for money, parents to do things. I would not, unless you are really hard up, I would honestly advise against it. Unless you are really hard up. Unless you are really, really hard up. But instead, I think it's extremely critical that you pick mentors that can actually mentor you. in other ways apart from financially. If a mentor is just there giving you money, the person is not mentoring you. The person is not mentoring you. The person is babying you more or less. And really, at some point in time, the person will get tired.
Yeah.
But have a real mentoring relationship. First of all, is you need to just show that you want to get it right in life. That determination to be that is enough for the mentor to drive you and guide you. It helps, makes it easier. Don't forget that these mentors also are busy people. So also don't shy away from pestering them in a subtle way. Don't shy away from pestering them. You reach out to them, they don't respond. Oh, look, I reached out to you. I know you're busy. Hope you're okay. I'd like to speak with you. Something about me is that if any of my mentees reach out to me and tell me, I need to speak with you, the chances that you will get me to talk to you in the next 3 or 4 hours. At the most, if I don't call you immediately, something may must, because I know that it's important. Don't abuse it. So you need to be able to build that type of relationship where you know that you're not constituting a nuisance, but you value that time with the mentor, So it's important that you, first of all, have that self-drive, that self-motivation, right, as a person. And then, rarely do you find people that pick mentors picking mentees. You need to walk up to that mentor and seriously have a conversation and say, I'd like you to mentor them. And when I'd like you to mentor me. And when you are having that conversation, you need to be able to tell the mentor why you are picking that mentor. So the point I'm making is that even your mentors sometimes don't think they have any, value to give you. They probably admire you. You don't even know. And you come to them and they're like, me, mentor you. So you need to be able to tell them, oh, this is how I think, this is the reason why I think I want you to mentor me. And some people want someone they can confide in. They just come to you and talk about their challenges. You stare them left, it may be personal, it may not even be career. It's first of all just knowing that, look, this is I'm going somewhere and I want to get there. And then walking up to that person, find the opportunity to walk up to that person and talk to that person. Some people will mentor you and they don't even know they're mentoring you. Like, I wish she can a lot. I don't know how at all. But I look at her life and I say, I like this, and I try to enrich. She doesn't know she's guiding me in some way. So there's that as well. I like the way she manages her home. I like the way she husband supports her. So I see things like that and I want to emulate it. Right? So.
Wow, this is, it's an MBA in mentorship. You've given us the roadmap for getting a mentor and how to navigate accessing a mentor. Thank you so much, Ms. Wola. I really appreciate this. So let's close out on this interview. One final question I have is, in hindsight, what advice would you give to your younger professional self about pursuing career ambitions?
So when I was much younger, I wasn't outgoing, but I was very good at building relationships, building friendships, networking, what people today call networking. I did it effortlessly, seamlessly as a younger person, not for any reason. It was just me. But for some funny reason, as you're growing older, when you start focusing on work and, you lose a couple of friends along the way for one reason or the other, or maybe you have a setback in life, you tend to want to recalibrate. And you say, I don't want friends, I don't want, you become less, That is one thing I would tell my younger self. That is one thing. Stay as a networker. You will meet people that would make you regret networking. Because some of those network relationships become friendships. Some of those friendships get abused. They get taken for granted, right? That is one aspect of me I would definitely do better at. That is one aspect of me that I know that I will definitely do better at. Networking, building relationships, sustaining them. I had far and wide. I knew people far and wide. But there was a bit of a setback in my life that slowed me down and made me withdraw. And I'm just again trying to reconnect and rebuild harder as you grow older, because people are suspicious of your motives. It's no longer going to UI together, we're going to law school together. People don't know what you intend, and then you don't know how to go about it. Even you have changed. So that's one thing I think I would honestly work on. And I would also work on being tech savvy. You know, Facebook came about late in my life, if I may put it that way. Not too, but but I've not gotten a grasp of it as much. You know, the LinkedIn, I'm there, but I'm not as there as I think I should be. I would definitely tell my younger self, do better with LinkedIn, improve your LinkedIn skills. I was attending a LinkedIn course just yesterday to learn how to do LinkedIn. So, and as you grow older, as I'm doing it, the children are calling me, or it's a bit more, it's much difficult. Adult education is hard. But with those things you can focus and do it. So those are the two things I would honestly work on better: networking and my tech skills. Those two.
It's not a lost cause. I mean, two areas are things you can actually work on. So
Absolutely.
I believe your older self can make improvements and your younger self be very proud.
Exactly. Well said. Very well said. Very well said. Very well said. Very well said.
Okay.
Thank you.
I want you to make some closing remarks to basically encourage budding chartered secretaries. You see, most of them are a bit uncertain. Am I on the right path? I can't find jobs now. Is this company secretary function thing for me? You're sitting in a room full of these category of persons. Say something to really give them the assurance that the company secretary function role is something they should move into and really grow in.
Okay, so I would say, before I say that statement, I want to say something about the company secretary course, the training, ICSAN membership. Doing the course does not necessarily mean you will be a company secretary. You right? Do you understand me?
Yes.
The ICSAN is so important. It's like a life skill. You learn corporate governance. Look, my directors have to learn corporate governance. They're not company secretaries. It will prepare you for directorship. It will prepare you for owning your company. You do accounting. You do a little bit of finance in it. You do management. You do administration. Those are life skills. Become the best directors out there. So, if I'm giving them any nugget, is to tell them that company secretary does not mean companies. The ICSAN does not mean, it's building you for company secretaryship, directorship, owning your own company, because you become strong in corporate governance. You can't be at any C-suite level without corporate governance knowledge and expertise. You must know it. Otherwise, you will ruin the organization. So it's a life skill that everybody needs to have. And it's preparing you for a senior role, not necessarily as a company secretary. So if you want to be a company secretary, that's a different thing entirely. So, you are doing it, you want to be a company secretary. All well and good. Then you position yourself accordingly, you network, you meet with the right people. One of the things I think is extremely critical for you to be a well-trained company secretary, going into being a board member, going into owning your own organization or a CEO role, is to first of all take the ICSAN exams. You must study for the ICSAN exams. You must attend all their events. At their events, you will network with co-company secretaries. You will network with senior company secretaries, and it opens doors and opportunities for you. So networking is very key. And I think, and I believe that an ICSAN event is one of the areas where you can network, and also knowledge of company secretarial practice, which you can get by being an ICSAN member, is extremely key. I can't think of any other association or body of organization that has the depth of knowledge, experience, or the clout that the ICSAN has in terms of the company secretary role. So if that's what you want to do, you first of all just need to prepare yourself, read, it's a lot of reading, and write the professional exams. As the Chartered Secretary, you have one foot in the door. So I want to just encourage you. It's not an easy journey to be a company secretary. A company secretary requires the organization to have trust and confidence in you. It's not an easy journey. You build things like trust, you build confidence over time. So I want to encourage you to keep at it, to keep working at it. You should just keep at it. Don't be discouraged. It's not, it was difficult for a lot of us getting to where we are today. It's not a walk in the park, but you need to network accordingly. You need to meet people. You need to prepare yourself. You need to stay knowledgeable. You need to ensure that people can trust you and have confidence in you. Those are things and skills that you build over time. So I don't want I want to encourage us not to be discouraged at the journey being difficult. I want to encourage us to stay on track and stay at it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wola Joseph. I mean, it was worth the wait. This interview was worth the wait. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the resourcefulness. Thank you so much for the wealth of knowledge you've shared, personal experiences, in-depth and very great. I appreciate you, Ma, so much. I really, really appreciate. On behalf of ICSAN Rivers State Chapter, I want to say a big thank you to you, Ma. Thank you for finding time to take this interview with us, and we look forward to more engagements with you in the future by God's grace. So that's all for today's edition of the ICSAN Rivers State Chapter Career Navigation Series. Until next time, we'll say stay safe and stay blessed. Bye.